Hello students, welcome to KENE'S Educare, a group of KENE solutions. This is part 10 of lesson number 7, Diversity in Living Organisms. So as you all know that we are on to part 10 for the lesson Diversity in Living Organism, right? We have already discussed 9 different parts on it. So I hope like whatever we have discussed till now, every one of you are clear with it. If you remember, in the last class we even started discussing about the 6 classes of phylum Vertebrata, right? So phylum Vertebrata is very important because it has 6 classes under it, and if you remember, we have one of the question the sixth question as like explain why vertebrata and how explain why and how vertebrata is divided into 6 classes, right? So we completed that answer, you can say in short. We discussed on the class of vertebrata, which include mammalia and all. And if you remember, now we are only left with the nomenclature part. We have to discuss on Carolus Linnaeus, nomenclature, and then summary and the exercise question. So most probably in this part itself I'm going to cover that all. But as this is going to be the last part for the lesson, your revision should be as such that you are letting yourself know the characteristics instead of revising it from your book. Okay? So I want each one of you to please go through like whatever notes you have taken till now, and just revise the 6 parts as well, because that is good. That is going to be the first time that you're revising it, right? So revise it properly, everyone. I hope every one of you are revising each and everything, because now you have many things to revise. I'll be showing you the characteristics as well, but you should be confident enough that you know the characteristics. Okay. So we have started discussing this lesson by discussing about classification and evolution, right? So I want you all to please go through it quickly. Then we discussed on activity 7.1. So over here you need to let yourself know the observation for this activity, the conclusion, and what explanation you can have. Okay. I hope you all are trying your best. Then we discussed on biodiversity in detail. So I want each one of you to please go through it. Then we discussed on the hierarchy of classification, that is the groups, how exactly it goes on, right? So I want each one of you to go through this as well. After this, here we discussed on the subgroups that we have. So please go through it as well, everyone. After this, we discussed on Monera. I hope everyone is like now telling yourself without looking on the screen. You have to let yourself know the characteristics of Kingdom Monera, and the reason the screen is in front of you, though you will be like closing your eyes and repeating it, and like that is going to give you a different kind of confidence. Okay. After this, we have some more characteristics of Monera given over here with the examples of the organism. Okay, so I just want each one of you to please go through it as well. After this, after discussing the characteristics of kingdom Monera, we had the next kingdom as kingdom fungi. So here we have the characteristics of kingdom fungi as well as like few examples which have been given. I hope every one of you are revising the same way as I told you all. After studying about the characteristics of the fungi and discussing the organisms which have this, you can say, characteristics, we even studied like one of the important point that you should always include when it comes to kingdom fungi, and that is about the symbiotic relationship. Okay, so I just want you all to go through this slide as well. So symbiotic relationship can be asked as an objective as well, right? You need to where you need to explain what symbiotic relationship is, and it is being observed in which kingdom. So you can get the questions like that as well. After this, we discussed on Kingdom Plante. So here we have the characteristics of Kingdom Plante which has been given. I want you all to please go through it quickly. Then after this Plante, we discussed on Kingdom Animalia. So here we have certain characteristics of Kingdom Animalia given. I want you all to revise it along with the phylums. Okay. I hope everyone has started doing the revision on phylums now. So like we have 10 different phylums, but before that we have this 5 kingdom classification, and I will request you all that before you proceed with the part, okay, there are like charts which have been given, like for this how organisms are been divided. For the you have a chart, same way we have a chart for Kingdom Plante and for Kingdom Animalia. So make sure you go through them, go through the chart, and then only you're like moving further with the lesson. Okay, so you can just revise this once. I hope everyone is revising it. After this, here we have like the characteristics of Plantae, because over here we have three divisions which come under kingdom Plantae, right? Which includes Thallophyta, Bryophyta, and Pteridophyta, right? So I want you all to please go through it quickly. After this, we discussed on like the characteristics of Thallophyta. So I want you all to please quickly go through it as well. You knowing the examples are also very important. So if possible, what you can do is you can write the kingdoms, under that the divisions and the phylums all together, and then you can write the examples of each and every phylum and divisions that you are aware of. Okay. After this, we discussed on the characteristics of bryophyta. So I want you all to please go through it quickly. After this, we discussed on pteridophyta in detail. So I just want each one of you to please go through it quickly. So now we know that division pteridophyta is further divided into two, that is gymnosperms and angiosperms, right? So here we have the characteristics of the gymnosperms which are given along with the example. So make sure you're going through it and you're not ignoring the examples and just knowing the, you can say, characteristic won't be enough, okay? Examples are very important. After this, we discussed on angiosperms in detail. So I want each one of you to please go through it quickly. So here we have the chart that I was talking about that you need to go through. Okay, so I want each one of you to please go through it. After this, we discussed on this activity 7.2. So I want you all to please go through it. After this, we discussed on like Animalia, where we had discussed the 10 phylums, and I want you all to please be quick with the revision part. After this, we discussed on the first phylum that we have a Sporifera. So now you have to be quick with all the characteristics of the 10 phylum along with the examples. Okay. After this phylum Porifera, we had phylum Coelenterata, that is Cnidaria, to discuss in detail, and I hope everyone is going and revising it properly. After the Coelenterata, we have Platyhelminthes that we discussed in detail. So I want each one of you to please go through the characteristics of Platyhelminthes which have been given on screen. After Platyhelminthes, we have Nematoda that we had discussed. So I want you all to please go through the characteristics of nematode as well. After this nematoda, we discussed on annelida in detail, right? So now I'm telling you continuously to focus on characteristics as well as the examples, okay? So make sure you do both. After annelida, we had arthropoda to discuss, right? So I want you all to please go through it quickly. After this arthropoda, we discussed on mollusca. So I hope each one of you are going through it. After mollusca, we discussed on echinodermata. So I want each one of you to please go through it. After echinodermata, we discussed on protocol data, right? So you should be knowing that protocol data, they have a long rod-like support structure that is present in the backbone, right? Back of the animal. So I want each one of you to please go through it quickly. After this, we had vertebrata to discuss. So I just want each one of you to please go through it quickly. After this, we discussed on the 6 classes of vertebrata, right? And the first class that we discussed was cyclostomata. So I want each one of you to please go through it quickly. After this, we discussed on the characteristics of Pisces. So I want you all to please go through it as well quickly. After this, we had like amphibia, the characteristics of amphibia to discuss. So I hope every one of you are going through it as well. After amphibia, we discussed on the characteristics of reptilia, right? After reptilia, we discuss on apes. So here we have the characteristics and the examples of apes which have been given. And I want each one of you to please go through it quickly. I hope everyone has gone through the characteristics of apes and you will be able to write the examples of them as well. So after apes we have the last part, last class to discuss, that is mammalia, right? So I just want you all to please go through the characteristics of mammalia as well. After this, now we will be discussing about Carolus Linnaeus. So see, Carolus Linnaeus, his name is Carl von Linné. He was born in Sweden and was a doctor by profession. Who was Carolus Linnaeus? He was doctor by his profession and he was interested in the study of plants. So because of his interest, at the age of 22, he published his first paper on plant, and while serving as a personal physician of a wealthy government official, he studied the diversity of plants in his employer's garden. Okay, and then later he published 14 papers and also brought out the famous book Systema Naturae, from which all the fundamental taxonomical researches have taken off. And his system of classification was a simple scheme for arranging plants so as to be able to identify them again. So see, he was a physician by his profession, but he had this like interest in plants, because of which he came up with so many studies. 14 papers were published by his book, in his book Systema Naturae. Just imagine, the profession is different and the interest is different, but he has focused on his interest, right? So I just want you all to read it once from your end, and you should be knowing this, as this is also very important, right? I hope everyone is going through this slide. So because of his profession, he was a personal physician of a wealthy government official, and then too he has worked on his interest, right? So after this, now we have the chart for classification of animals. See, animals are further classified on the basis of cellular level of organization, and the other one is tissue level of organization. So these two level of organizations are the first, you can say, step for classifying the animal. So when it comes to cellular level of organization, we have phylum Porifera under that. And when it comes to tissue level of organization, we have Coelenterata, Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, and Coelomate, right? So some like Coelenterata and Platyhelminthes, they don't have any body cavity between epidermis and gastrodermis. Nematoda has pseudocoelom present, and coelomate means through body cavity, right? So that is present in Annelida, Mollusca, and Arthropoda. So it means mesodermal cells from a single cell during growth of the embryo, right? And when it comes to like coelom formed from pouches pinned off from the endoderm, then we have like one as notochord, having the notochord, and the other as not having the notochord, right? Okay, then we after on the basis of presence and absence of notochord, we have like the phylum having no notochord includes echinodermata, and the one having the notochord includes protochordata and vertebrata, right? And we know that vertebrata is further divided into 6 classes. So before you start studying about animalia, like kingdom animalia, make sure you're going through this chart, because this chart is very important and you need to go through this chart for your like better understanding, because it will help you a lot further. Okay, because if you go through the chart first and then study everything, you will have much more realization, like what are the basic differentiation and similarities you'll come to know. Like if you can see Coelenterata and Platyhelminthes, now you can come up with that they both have tissue level organization where no body cavity is present between epidermis and gastrodermis. So this becomes the similarity between phylum Coelenterata and Platyhelminthes. So this is how, if you study the start before studying the further part, it will help you a lot further. Okay. Then after this we have nomenclature to discuss. Now the nomenclature means naming a certain system. Like we have 10 different phylums, then phylum Vertebrata has 6 classes under it. So why there is a need for a systemic naming of living organism? The question is this. Okay, so as you might be able to appreciate, it would be difficult for people speaking or writing in different languages to know when they are talking about the same organism, right? So now it becomes very difficult for us to understand different language, then to write different language, to speak different language, right? So this problem was resolved by agreeing upon a scientific name for organism in the same manner that chemical symbol and formulae for various substances are used the world over. So suppose, just imagine I am in India, okay, and I'm taking a name of an organism, let's say a horse. Okay, now if I go in other you can say part of the world, there if I say horse, people will not understand what a horse is, right? So it will become difficult for us to know different names, to understand it, to speak it, and to write it. And that is why, like we have a common chemical symbol and formula given for various substances, Same way, we have this binomial nomenclature for organisms as well. Okay, so the scientific name for an organism is thus unique and can be used to identify it anywhere in the world. Like you. Now we all are unique, right? We have our own name, and it's possible that many of you around have 10 to 20 different person in your own area with the same name, right? But there are certain characteristics that is making you unique, right? Your thumbprint makes you unique. Same way, the scientific name, when we assign it to an organism, that makes them unique and we can easily identify them anywhere in the world. Okay, so the system of scientific naming or nomenclature we use today was introduced by Carolus Linnaeus in the 18th century. When it was introduced in 18th century, and the scientific name of an organism is the result of the process of classification which puts it along with the organism it is most related to. So once we got the classification, every organism was classified into 10 phylums, classes and division. It became easier for naming them or giving them a scientific name. But when we actually name the species, we do not list the whole hierarchy of group it belongs to, right? If I have to name a species, I'm just going to use the genus and the species name. I'm not going to have the entire table with me, including like the phylum, kingdom to which it belongs. I won't have those informations with me, right? So, world over, it has been agreed that both these names will be used in Latin form. Which words, the genus and the species, will only be used all over the world. Okay. So I hope every one of you are going through it. After this, now we have an activity. We need to find out the following names, following animals and plants in as many languages as you can. So I'm not going to discuss it because I want you all to do this as your homework, where you will be finding out the names of animals and plants in all the languages as you can, like for tiger, peacock, ant, neem, lotus and potato. Okay, so you all have to do this anyhow. Then after this activity 7.3, We have activity 7.4 where you have to write the scientific name of any five common animals and plants, and you need to write, do these names have anything in common with the names you normally use to identify them. So you have to search for it and do it by yourself, because I want you all to do this thing, because while you search for it you will gather more information, so it will be of more, like, it will be more helpful to you. Okay. After this we have the summary discussion over here, and I want you all to please go through it quickly through the whole slide, because this is very important for you all to know. I hope everyone is reading all the summary points which have been given. After this, now we have like 6 exercise questions to discuss, right? So we will be doing that as well. So the first question that we have is, what are the advantages of classifying organisms? So now what do you all think? What is the advantage of classifying animals according to you? See, you can write that when organisms are classified, their common features can be easily studied, like whatever is the similarities between them, we can easily study them. Then we can easily, like, we can make the scientific experiments simplified, right? After that, the interrelation of human with other entities can be interpreted as well, like what kind of you can say relation humans and other entities have, and their dependence and interactions can also be studied, right? So you can write this like these are the few advantages of classifying organisms. Okay, you can add more points if you have. Then, how would you choose between two characteristics to be used for developing a hierarchy in classification? So how will you choose this? You know, the basis of the start of hierarchy was formed by a gross character, while the further steps, like which should be taken care of by the fine characters. For instance, if I say we human beings are characterized under vertebrates, right? Why? Because we have a vertebral column. Then tetrapods, the existence of four limbs is taken into consideration, and that is why they are been named as tetro. You can say tetrapods because they have four limbs. And when it comes to mammals, mammals are named mammals because they have mammary gland, right? So these are some of the characteristics which are taken into consideration while developing a hierarchy in classification. Okay, you can write these examples and explain. Then explain the basis for grouping organisms into 5 kingdoms. So the first factor that you can write is number of cells present forms the first criteria. How many number of cells you can say the organism has, that becomes the first criteria. Next criteria is arrangement and number of layers present in them. Okay, first is number of cells present in an organism becomes the first criteria. Second criteria is arrangement and the number of layers which are present in them. Then another important factor that we can consider is existence of cell wall, whether they have cell wall or they do not have cell wall. Then we have mode of nutrition, what kind of mode of nutrition they have. And this is how like we group organisms into 5 kingdom. Okay, after this, the fourth question that we have is, what are the major divisions in plantae and what is the basis for division? So we know we have like 3 different divisions: thallophyta, bryophyta and pteridophyta. Where pteridophyta is further divided as gymnosperm and angiosperm, right? So thallophytas are going to have like body is the classification. Bryophyta, the body will be divided into leaf and stem. For pteridophyta, the body is separated into root, stem and leaf. So there will be a major different differentiating part which will be seen in pteridophytes. And gymnosperms are seed bearing or naked seeds. Angiosperms are seed bearing covered seeds. What are angiosperms? seed bearing, covered seed. These are some of the criteria you can write and write the names. Then the fifth question is, how are the criteria for deciding division in plants differ from the criteria for deciding the subgroup among animals? So one of the major specification to categorize plant into thallophyta and bryophyta is the basic cell structure. So while we are deciding the division in plant, the basic criteria is basic cell structure they have, and when it comes to gymnosperms and angiosperms, they are classified on the basis of visibility of the seeds. Okay, so you can write this much for plants. Then you can say that morphological characteristics play a role in plant classification, right? What plays a role? Morphological classification plays a key role. And when it comes to animal classification, cytology is considered primarily as more minute structural variation which are taken into account. So for animals, we can say the cell layer, cytology and morphology, there are some significant features which we need to consider in the classification of animal. Along with that, presence and absence of various features decide the classification of higher hierarchies. Okay, so you can elaborate this more and write it. Then explain how animals in vertebrata are classified into further group. So over here, vertebratas are like they has two subclasses and they are Pisces and tetrapods, right? But we studied on 6 classes under them. Which are the 6 classes that come under vertebrata? So we have amphibia, reptilia, aves, mammalia, right? These are some of the classes that we have under phylum vertebrata, which you should be knowing on, and you have to like elaborate in detail. You need to write some of the points, like some of the characteristics about them in detail. Okay, so that is how you'll come to know the characteristic, and you will come to know your like what points you are aware of, because that is also very important, right? So I hope every one of you have understood like whatever we discussed today, and you're even clear with how to write the answers. Okay, now you writing the answer is very important on your own. Okay, because now you have to develop that habit. You will be going in class 10, 11, 12. So you have to start developing a habit where you try to write the answers on your own, in your own words. Try to frame your own answers rather than just copying it from your textbook. Okay, whatever you have understood, whatever. Okay, even like if you don't know the proper explanation, but you know an example in which it occurs, so you have to like try to frame an answer on the basis of the example itself. Okay, that can be done as well. So now I hope that every one of you are like clear with whatever has been discussed today. Now I will be starting with a new lesson in the next part, but everyone please make sure that you know whatever has been studied till now. You know how to explain them, you know about each phylum, the characteristics, the examples, you know about the division, okay, and examples as well. So now I'll be ending up with the session with this lesson, diversity in living organism, and I hope sorry, that every one of you have understood the lesson very well and you all are even clear with it. So if I like now tell you to explain me each like any phylum or any division, you will be able to explain it, right? So now I'll end up with the lesson diversity in living organism, and I'm going to continue with a new lesson in the next part. Thank you everyone.